Hello and welcome back to IELTS with Will. Today we're going to have a quick look at some idiomatic language, which is very useful for your speaking. So let's go. So why do native speakers use idiomatic language in the first place? Well, it makes speech more expressive and colorful. It's not such boring language when you use these images created by idiomatic languages. For example, over the moon sounds stronger than very happy. Now, over the moon is an idiomatic expression. However, it paints a picture in your head, not just someone smiling, but someone leaping over the moon. Idioms also reflect shared cultural understanding. So idioms come from the culture. For example, spill the beans means to reveal a secret. Now you wonder why, then the explanation will come from the culture. They show fluency and comfort with the language. So idioms are part of everyday conversations, and this is why it's useful and important for getting a good mark in the vocabulary section of the IELTS speaking exam. And it's also why idioms are difficult, because first of all, they're not literal. They don't say what they mean. So, for example, to kick the bucket doesn't mean to actually kick anything. They are rarely taught systematically. So, most textbooks focus on grammar and general vocabulary. They don't focus on idioms, and often they're quite difficult to describe and explain to students. They also require certain cultural awareness because understanding their meaning often depends on the context, and this is why they feel more natural because it takes a natural understanding. And they can sound unnatural if they're not used correctly. So, if you make lots of mistakes with idioms, they reduce fluency and coherence in your IELTS marks. However, the opposite is true. If you can use one or two well and correctly, they up your mark. So using these idioms can improve your lexical resource score. That's your vocabulary mark. But only if they're natural, they're correct, and they're relevant to what you're talking about. So that's the context is relevant. So if you can do that and you don't need lots of them, one, maybe two, and that's enough, then your mark could be improved. All right, as I said, often it is better not to have a full explanation of idioms, but to feel if you understand them. And often this is the case when students begin to use them correctly, they just feel that it's correct to use them. Easier said than done, but let's have a look at some. So here I'm going to give you some idioms, and you guess the idiom's meaning. I need to hit the books tonight. So I'm not telling you what it is. Can you guess? Can you feel what it might mean? Think about it. I was over the moon when I got the news. I've told you that one already, if you can remember. It was a blessing in disguise. Think about it. What kind of pictures does it make in your head? And he bit the bullet and gave the speech. So maybe you're thinking about somebody biting a bullet. Why would they do that? Why would someone in these old films, for example, put a bullet between their teeth and start biting? Why would they do that? So can you guess these idioms before I tell you? All right, let's have a look. So here is someone hitting some books. So who does this? Who hits some books for no reason? Poor innocent books are being punched in the page. So no, it's not literally about punching or hitting books. What does it mean? Well, the meaning is to study very hard. Usually, when you're studying for an exam, that means I've got to hit the books tonight. That means I've got to study very hard tonight. Here's the example. I have a big test tomorrow, so I really need to hit the books tonight. I really have to study hard tonight because the test is tomorrow. So to hit the books, is that an easy one to use? What do you think? We mentioned to be over the moon. And as I said, it means to be extremely happy or excited. So imagine how basic a word like happy is when you're speaking to the examiner. Instead of saying, I was happy, you say, I was over the moon. I was over the moon when I found out I passed the IELTS with a band 7. A blessing in disguise. So maybe this is more difficult to guess. Let's see what it means. Something that seemed bad at first, but turned out to be good. So it was good is the blessing part. It turned out to be a blessing. It turned out to be good. In disguise because it was disguised as something not good, something bad. So something that seemed or appeared bad at first, actually it turned out to be quite good. Example would be losing that job, which you think is something not good, was a blessing in disguise. It gave me the chance to study abroad. So although at first it seemed a bad thing, eventually it turned out to be quite good. Here's the biting the bullet, right? He's been a little bit nice to this bullet, I think, but why would you bite a bullet? Remember these old movies when you see someone bite a bullet? What's happening to them when they do this? Well, usually they're going through some kind of pain. Usually, maybe they've been shot and someone's trying to take out another bullet. They're biting one because of the pain. And so to bite the bullet means to do something difficult or unpleasant that you've been avoiding. So it's something that you don't want to do, something unpleasant that you don't want to do, but you have to do it. So then what do? You just have to bite the bullet and do it. Take the pain and do it. For example, he was really nervous about public speaking, but he bit the bullet and gave the speech anyway. So he didn't want to do the public speaking because he thought it was going to be unpleasant, but he bit the bullet. So he took the pain and gave the speech anyway because he had no choice, probably. So let's upgrade a band 5 to a band 7 with these lovely idioms. So a band 5 may say, I study hard before exams. So what might a band 7 say with an idiom? Well, here's another one. I usually burn the midnight oil before exams. Or you could have used the one that we've looked at already. I usually the books the night before the exams, something like that. Or you could say, I usually burn the midnight oil before the exams. And this means I usually stay up all night before the exams, probably studying. So I usually burn the midnight oil before exams because I'm hitting the books all night. I like watching movies. So what kind of idiom could serve a band 7? I'm a movie buff. That's someone who is really into movies, who loves watching movies, a movie buff. Band 5 may say, my dad helps me a lot. What could a band 7 say with an idiom that means helps me a lot? Possibly one you've heard before. My dad is always there to lend a hand. So these are quite simple ones, maybe burn the midnight oil, not so much, but I'm a real movie buff and my dad's always there to lend a hand. Even very simple idioms like this are very useful for your vocabulary mark when speaking. Let's match some idioms now. So we have break the ice. You may have heard of that. Teachers use this expression sometimes. In hot water or in hot water. On the same page or to be on the same page. Or the ball's in your court. The ball is in your court. So these are 4 idioms. First of all, can you possibly guess what they mean before I show you the possible definitions? Now I'm going to show you the meanings, but not the correct ones. You have to match the idiom with the meaning. You can guess from the 4 meanings I'm going to give you. So A would be agree on something. Of these idioms means to be in trouble. Another means it's your move. Last one means start a conversation. So have a look. Which one is the definition for each idiom? All right, let's have a look and see what they mean. So break the ice means start a conversation. Often your teacher begins the class, especially the first ever class they have with their students, by having a game to get people to start talking to each other or to get people to know each other and know the teacher. And this game is usually called an icebreaker. Of course, in hot water, so we could say to be in hot water, and that means to be in trouble. Is that guessable? To be on the same page means to agree on something. So we're both on the same page. That means we agree. And the ball's in your court, so it's up to you. It's your move. All right, so a little quick introduction to some idioms to think about. Are any of them easy enough to perhaps try to use and practice? Well, here's a little challenge for you now. So you choose a recent IELTS Speaking Part 2 task. For example, describe a time when you were really happy. So I think we remember the one about being really happy from today, and that was to be over the moon, wasn't it? To try to use two idioms naturally in your answer. So think about how you would say it basically, and then change a basic expression for one of these idioms, or maybe another. So in this case, over the moon, as I mentioned, describe a time when you were over the moon, could be the question. Or made my day, when something made my day. It made this day perfect. It was a dream come true. So you could say going on a trip to Italy was a dream come true, for example. So pick a part 2 task, think about how you would answer it, and then think about how you could naturally try to use a couple of idioms in it. Then record yourself, listen to it again. Is that natural sounding? How natural did it sound? Did it sound better than saying a simple word like happy, for example, or convenient and comfortable, something like that? So is it better than the basic word when you hear yourself say it? Think about it. All right, I hope you enjoyed this quick lesson. If you did, click the link below and subscribe if you haven't, and I'll see you next time.